a Sapphire Running Zone podcast.
Hi everyone, this is Tim from the Sapphire Running Zone, and this is another of our Runner Stories podcasts. And this is episode 2 with Mark, who has had a very eventful few weeks. Welcome, Mark. Give us a bit of a recap for those that didn't hear the first episode on your sort of running history, your fundraising history, and why you're doing it all.
Yeah, so I've pretty much been running a bit more serious over the last 10 years. Got back into running to fundraise for a charity called Sands. And everything I've done has been in memory of my firstborn son, who unfortunately was stillborn 10 years ago.
Right, and the race you've just done, not a normal race, 150 kilometres of fairly hilly terrain. So tell us all about that and what happened on the day.
Yeah, so the 95-mile West Highland Way Race, which has got 14,000 foot of elevation gain, and is a balloted entry, but has limited to 300 runners. I think 240 odd made it to race start, and 182 finished. So it was the highest dropout rate that they've ever had. 60 odd runners never made it to the finishing line for a variety of reasons.
And what were those reasons?
Injuries. The heat was a real shocker, especially for somebody from Scotland like myself. Once it gets above 16 degrees, I start burning. But it was 19 degrees at 1 a.m. when the race started. So yeah, I think a lot of fatigue and sweat problems affected everybody, and myself included. The wheels very nearly came off the race quite early on because of that. I think looking at my Garmin statistics, I lost over 14 litres of fluid throughout the race. So trying to replenish that and the salts is a challenge in itself. And if anybody's ever been on holiday recently, you know yourself, your appetite sort of goes downhill in the heat, and that played a big factor on my race day performance.
Wow, God, that sounds incredibly difficult. So let's break it down into sort of thirds then. What was the build up like in the lead up to the race, and what was the first third of the race like for you?
Lead up to the race was really good. I went in injury free. My training had been on point. My taper went well. My sleep the day of the race probably wasn't as good as it could have been, but nothing excessive. And then just went into the race, got my weigh in before the race, checked in, had another wee power nap, and went to the race line at about 12:30 in the morning. We got the race briefing. As I said, it was very, very warm, very clammy, and set off. Everything was going reasonably well. I went into the checkpoint 1, which was 19 miles in, went in about 10-15 minutes ahead of schedule. Was feeling good. Checkpoint 2, hit that fine. Checkpoint 3 was on time, but I was starting to feel tired for some reason. And respectfully, it was only 30 odd miles into the race. I shouldn't have been as fatigued as I was at that point. So I knew something was starting to go wrong. And after that, it became a bit of a struggle. Got to 40 odd miles into the race and realised that I was not overly close to cut-off times, but I was getting closer than I would have liked to have been at that point. I was maybe about an hour and a half ahead of the cut-offs that they would allow you to go through checkpoints. Got to 51 miles, met my support crew, got a change of clothes, some food, and was reasonably refreshed, albeit I was a couple of hours behind schedule by this point. By the time I reached Bridge of Orkney, which is 61 miles in, I was starting to feel tired.
Middle third is when it really started to hit you then. You knew you were having some challenges at that point. And did you put most of that down to the heat?
I did. I mean, I can't say anything particularly went wrong. I just knew that maybe about 40 to 50 miles into the race, I felt tired and my joints felt achy. And I can't really put it down to anything else. I wish I could say I had an injury or there was something that I could really pinpoint it to, but I think that's the thing with races of this distance. You expect things to go wrong and you try to overcome them, but when you can't really put your finger on it, it's difficult to try to recover when you don't exactly know what's going on. As I said, it was 27 degrees. My watch said that my body temperature was sitting my surface temperature was sitting about 32 degrees at points. So trying to cool myself off in rivers, etc., was really becoming a challenge. I was dipping my buff into the water, putting it on my head, and 5 minutes later it was bone dry. So a lot of that played a factor in it. I'm not used to heat acclimatization.
So 27 degrees, and most of the time when you've been running in hills like that, it's been 7 degrees rather than 27 or even -7.
Yeah, I mean, I'll run in the ice and the snow, and I'll still be wearing shorts and t-shirt. I'm a hardy Scotsman, so yeah, I think that plays a bit of impact on it. But really getting the fuel into my body became the problem, I think.
We talked before about that you didn't use gels and that you were a big fan of sandwiches and flapjacks and the like. Did you find then that you just didn't have an appetite for that particularly, that you just wanted more and more water?
It was more and more water. And as I says, my fueling for the first third of the race, probably up to the halfway point, everything was bang on where I expected it to be. The difference was I'd never anticipated sweating that amount. So even though I was hitting my carb and electrolyte levels, I probably should have been adapting it more to the heat. But that's a learning curve that we all do in any type of race. You've got to go through that sort of suffering to then learn how to adapt to that on the feet, because it's a fine balance between under consuming and over consuming.
And did you see any evidence of others struggling?
Yeah, I mean, there was various people that I'd spoke to. Everything was a bit of a back and forward. You're overtaking some people at some checkpoints. 10 minutes later, they're coming back, they're overtaking you. Various people, as I said, I know a couple of people who did drop out through the race, and it was just down to fatigue, things not going according to plan. It's a sensible approach. You're out there, you're going hours without seeing checkpoints, so you're needing to be sensible about what you're actually doing to your body and the risks that are associated with that. There was other people that got pulled out by the medical team because they can tell when you walk into a checkpoint whether you're still functioning or whether you are just a bit of fatigue that's setting in, and they've got to make that decision. And I don't think they'd ever take that decision lightly to pull somebody from a race, especially if you're 60 or 70 miles into it.
So they were pulling people even though they were inside the cutoff point?
Yes.
Wow, that is quite unusual in those races, isn't it?
I've heard of it before. When the heat gets up, they've got to make that decision to say that they don't want you to continue because they feel on medical grounds that you won't be able to continue. You're putting yourself at risk. You're putting other racers at risk.
And what was that last third like then? Because at this point, you're still within the checkpoint cutoffs, but you're well outside your expected time. Is that right?
Yeah, the last third. I mean, I left Glencoe, which was 71 miles in. I left there about 11:15, and the cut-off time for that was midnight. So I was sitting around about an hour ahead of the cut-offs, where I really should have been 4 or 5 hours ahead by that point, according to my race plan. And when I got to Kinloch leaving, there's only 16, 17 miles to go after that. I started thinking, could I make it? I was moving at such a slow pace. At one point, I was literally sleeping on my feet, and my support runner was just guiding me in the dark to keep me on the path. He was a godsend to be able to be with me for those hours during the sunset and waiting on the second sunrise. We ended up going through a thunderstorm and torrential rain at about 3 a.m. So yeah, that was challenging. And then,
and is the course clearly marked, or are you having to use maps to get where you're going?
I'm familiar with the route, so there's a couple of small bits where you could go off course, but most of those are well marked. Because it is just following the West Highland Way, so it's a popular walking route. So those are well marked, and any deviations from the route into checkpoints is well marked by the race organisers.
Right, okay. So what was it like when you came down the home straight then and you saw, I'm not going to say you saw huge crowds. I mean, how many were there at the finish?
So one of the great things about this race is that so I finished in 34 hours and 29 minutes. The cut-off is 35 hours, so 31 minutes to spare. But the award ceremony for every runner starts at the 35-hour cut-off point. So everybody was already in the hall waiting to receive the hard-end goblets. So the race winners in there, they're clapping you and cheering you in. So I went into a crowd of maybe 200 or 300 people in the hall. As I went in, managed to meet my family and my boys and cross the finishing line with them, rather exhausted and bewildered. But it was an experience unlike anything I could ever imagine.
Oh, that's superb. Well, congratulations, because it must have been, well, it must have been a lot tougher than you were expecting.
Exhaustion setting in 34 and a half hours. I challenge anybody to do that without running the entire time. So it's a long time to be awake and be on your feet. But it was for a great cause. Raised just over £9,000 this time, which puts me to nearly £27,000 raised over the last 10 years for SANS. So I've achieved my ultimate goal in doing that. I've raised awareness. I've repaid everybody's generosity by completing the race. And yeah, I'm just very grateful for all the kind words and well wishes that I've received from friends, family, and total strangers. It's been great.
God, that's remarkable. I think the last time we spoke, you were on 3,000, I think, for
Yeah.
this race. God, how on earth did you raise that extra money then?
I managed to reach out to a variety of suppliers, manufacturers. They gave me some freebies, even things like Rangers Football Club. They donated a stadium tour, so I bundled that all together to do a raffle prize. So that encouraged some people to do some additional donations, and perseverance of just harassing people for donations. And luckily, my company, the Brickability Foundation, they done a charity match, so they matched the £3,000. They were going to match up to £3,000, so that £3,000 on top of what I'd raised put me over the £9,000 mark.
Oh, that's tremendous. Those company donations, that match giving is just gold, isn't it? That really
Yeah,
is.
really
Talk
is.
to me a little bit more about the corporate support you had then from sponsors and other business relationships, because this is obviously important for other people doing these kind of challenges.
Yeah, I mean, the shy children don't get sweets is a phrase that I've heard a few times. So I reached out to as many different suppliers, people that I use, and basically just tried to ask them if there was any support or help that they could do. And if they couldn't, could they share my story on their social medias? Anything to really gain a bit of traction. And some people came back and offered to give out vouchers, money off vouchers, products, and it was really great to hear from people. And it was really interesting because even some of the bigger brands who maybe wouldn't support me as an athlete, or support a particular cause, the the people that actually took the time out to come back and respond and again just give words of support was really incredible. And that helped me during some of the darker times when you're thinking about everybody who's listened to my story and been touched by my story.
And how did you operate the raffle then? Was that done online or was that all physical? How did that work?
So the raffle, some of the prizes and certificates got sent direct to me. I just monitored it through social media, and when people donated to my Just Giving page and shared and liked the post on my Instagram, I then just put together all the names and put into one of these spin the wheel name generators, and done that, and then just recorded it and shared it out with people. Managed to then just packaged up the prizes and raffle prizes and sent it out to the winner, who was a gentleman named Chris Henderson.
Right. So there was one prize. You basically packaged everything up and there was one
Yeah, so
grand prize.
it started out, as I said, I'd reached out to a number of different suppliers. The idea for it actually became because I'd reached out to people to try and help support my run. And a sunglasses manufacturer called Santara, they reached out to me and said, "We'll send you a free pair of sunglasses that you can wear during your race, but we'll also send you another pair if you want to raffle it off." And I was like, "That's great." So then I changed my tact with some of the suppliers and emailed and said, I'm trying to put together a raffle bundle. Could you help? So it started off with a list of maybe 2 prizes. And every time a supplier came back to me, I just added to the prize bundle. So the prize bundle ended up worth over £300 by the time it was completed.
That's a great idea. So people bought raffle tickets via your Just Giving page, and then you used an online name generator to pick the winner.
Essentially, yeah. All I said was if somebody had done a £10 donation or more, they would be entered into the raffle to win the prize, the prize bundle. And the prize bundle was essentially tickets to a comedy club, a voucher for for PT sessions for a month, Whole On Wellness, who do like ice baths and saunas, this Paris and Tara sunglasses, a stadium tour at Ibrox, some free T-shirt, free socks from somebody else. So yeah, just a mixture of stuff that the type of people who I follow on social media and follow me on social media could make use of.
It's a great idea. So it kept your administration to the minimum, really, didn't it? You just had one winner, one address to send the goodies to, and job
Pretty
done.
much. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was nice and easy. As I say, if it had only resulted in one donation onto the Just Giving, it was all free stuff from suppliers who'd been tagged in social media posts. So it was never going to be a big difference. But I think it resulted in about an extra couple of £100 worth of donations onto the page, I would say.
good. And how long did it take you to recover from this unbelievable run?
Surprisingly, my legs actually felt okay. My ankle was tender, and my body was beat up. I was fatigued. I went out. I went straight on holiday. So I flew out to Portugal 2 days later with my family for a family summer vacation. And I went running 6 days after the race. Done a 4 mile run while I was on holiday. And I done one more run when I was on holiday, and I done a progression run last night. So yeah, 2 weeks. I'm back in sort of training mode, although it's a bit more of a base building mode. Not quite ready to get into a full training plan at this stage.
Right, and in the meantime, you had some very unusual news that none of us seem to have managed, and that was getting a spot in the London Marathon. How on earth did you manage that?
Honestly, I have no idea. I'm either very fortunate or somebody just likes playing jokes with my wife by getting me into major events. So yeah, I got the email I think about 2 or 3 days before the West Highland Way Race. So that was already in the back of my mind, going right, okay, there we go. There's a marathon training can start.
Oh, that's amazing. So, what's your sort of schedule of events looking like in between? Because I take it that isn't going to be your next formal event.
I'm not sure is the honest answer. I've got a small 7 mile trail race booked for August. I am planning on organising, and this is something I've never done before, but Sands, we're looking for people to organise a local ribbon run, which is a 5K run for Baby Loss Awareness Week in October. So I am probably going to organise my own race for the first time ever. I say race, but it'd be a much more family-friendly run, so to speak, on the 11th of October. So I think a lot of time's probably going to go into organising that and trying to learn the aspects of race organisation.
Yeah, good luck with that. That'll be an experience for sure.
Yeah.
And
Um,
what about your aspirations for London then? Have you got a specific time in your head, or are you going to go for just that experience approach?
So another debate with my wife, but yeah, she thought I was just going to go for the experience, but no, chances of getting into London again after this is probably very slim. So I think I don't want to go down and really try and give it my all. I'd be over the moon if I could get somewhere under 3 hours 30, 3 hours 15 to 3 hours 30. I think it's going to be the target in terms of what I'm going to train for, and we'll see what happens.
It's going to be a piece of cake for you, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know if there's still speed left in these old legs or not.
I think given that running a marathon wasn't even inside the first third, was just inside the first third of your race this time, you're going to feel a bit shortchanged going under a finishing gantry at 26 miles.
Yeah, I suppose I might. I don't think I'll do anything as wild as running it back the way, but we'll see. I think I'll be happy with a good time. Go down and enjoy the atmosphere. I think it's going to be a phenomenal race, and just I'll need to do a bit more heat acclimatisation between now and then because 27 degrees isn't unheard of in London.
Well, no, I think a lot of people have been surprised with race day temperatures this year, haven't they? It wasn't just yours. It was obviously London. It's been multiple events, and I think it's caught a lot of people out doing sort of late spring races because it's just not what you've trained for. Whereas if you do an autumn marathon, you train all summer in the warmth, and then generally speaking, it's sort of the same-ish or a bit cooler. But
Yeah.
for you guys this year, it's been very strange. What are you going to do about the fundraising for London then? Obviously, you've got your own entry, so you don't have to worry about hitting, minimum fundraising targets on a guaranteed entry. What's the approach going to be?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. Um, it's been it's been intense over the last number of years. Donor fatigue's definitely a thing that sets in, and I think that I still want to put out a lot of awareness because it is such a large event. I just don't know how much. Um, I don't know how much money I'd be able to raise on it. As you're saying, a marathon seems to pale into insignificance compared to what I've just undertaken. So I've got to be fair to friends and family and colleagues, and I think there's a lot of things that you can do to keep raising awareness for charities without it always just being about the fundraising. The fundraising's so important to them because they need these funds to help with the support that they offer. But getting the word out there in relation to the charity is just as important.
Yeah, and I know, I totally agree. And it might be just a case of I'm doing this thing. I know you've supported me massively over the years. If you can donate a few pound, that would be brilliant. But no pressure kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Almost quite a relaxed approach, which you can't really do on a guaranteed entry. But for most people on a guaranteed, it's probably the first time they've fundraised, unlike you that's had 10 years of it. So, there does come a point, doesn't there, where you have to be a little bit cautious. And I think you're right about awareness. For a charity like Sands, it's important that the message is put out there.
I'm going to continue to try and raise funds and push funds. I think there's more things that I can offer within the charity and within people in general. As I says, I know it's might seem like a bit of a cliche, but if anybody needs any help or assistance with training or tips on fundraising, I'm always happy to help out and do what I can to assist other people. So try to do things like that is really what I want to be able to do going forward. And as I say, organising this ribbon run in October for the Baby Loss Awareness Week is going to be a big thing, not so much around fundraising, but again about offering out help, support, and raising awareness for people.
And how many people are you expecting to get to that one? Or are you hoping to get?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, just with close family and friends, it could be an event with 20 to 30 people straight away. And I'm really hoping that I can lean on the running community and the people that I've been involved with over the years. I mean, the West Highland Way racing community, they've got a family Facebook group, and everybody was so nice and so kind to me, and that's hundreds of people. I was getting cuddles off of people that I just met for the first time at the finishing line, and I'm still getting messages today just saying about how much my story has reached out to them. A lady that I met before the race, or sorry, had contacted me before the race, and I met during the race. She nominated me for a Just Giving award, and had emailed me to say that she'd put me forward. So I'll find out in the next few weeks whether I've made that shortlist for that. So it's really such a close knit community that I'll be trying to lean on them to try and see if I can turn the ribbon run into a big event. It's a big event in Manchester already, but they're trying to get people to do smaller community runs around the country.
Well, that's really good. Well, congratulations on that nomination, and very good luck putting that race together. You're not going to send them up into the mountains, are you?
No, no, but I've found the flattest route I can. I'm just waiting to find out if I can get permission on the area that I'm hoping to do it in. So fingers
Right.
crossed.
Yeah, good. Well, good luck with that, and good luck with the marathon training. Hopefully, we can have a catch up before you head to London. I'd be very interested to hear how you get on with that event that you're doing. That's fantastic. Yeah, congratulations. You did an amazing job. As if that race wasn't tough enough without 27, 28 degrees. That's tough. So well done, and amazing job with all that fundraising.
No, I appreciate that, Tim, and thanks for having me on again.
Thanks for listening to this Sapphire Running Zone podcast. Keep checking back as we have lots more podcasts coming soon.